space.
The alien had been laughing at my starship for almost 5 minutes. Then I asked him where he came from. He stopped laughing. 4,712 light years. I looked at the pile of metal surrounding us. Then I looked at him. That's all? Kael stared at me. You don't understand. I picked up my welding mask. Sure I do. I pointed at the half-built machine behind me. I need to build something that goes 4,712 light years. Kael's amber eyes widened. You cannot build a starship. I smiled. Wanna bet? 6 years earlier I had never seen an alien. Then one fell out of the sky and crashed into my fence. It happened just before sunrise. I was walking toward my repair shop with a cup of coffee when something tore across the clouds. There was a flash. A sound like thunder. Then, a burning piece of metal slammed into the field behind my workshop. I grabbed a fire extinguisher and ran. I expected an aircraft. Maybe a drone. Maybe somebody's very expensive mistake. I did not expect the wreckage to move. Something crawled out. It was nearly 7 feet tall. Blue-gray skin. Long fingers. Amber eyes that looked far too intelligent. It raised a weapon at me. I raised my coffee. Easy, buddy. It said something that sounded like a radio being fed through a lawn mower. I stared at it. It stared at me. Then it collapsed face first into the dirt. That was how I met Kael. For the next few weeks, my repair shop became the strangest workplace in America. Kael slept beside my spare part shelves. He hated my coffee. I made him drink it anyway. He called my pickup truck primitive. I pointed out that my pickup truck had never fallen out of the sky. That shut him up for about 10 seconds. Then he asked what kind of engine it used. We became friends almost by accident. His translator eventually started working. That's when I learned he was a scout from a civilization thousands of light years away. His ship had been attacked. His crew was gone. His people believed him dead. And his only way home was sitting in pieces behind my garage. I spent months studying the wreckage. The technology was incredible. Some components seemed to ignore physics entirely. Others were so advanced I couldn't even figure out what they were supposed to do. Kael watched me work. You cannot repair it. I kept tightening a bolt. That's funny. What? You've been saying that for 3 months. Because it remains true. I looked at him. You know, for an advanced alien civilization, you people sure do say no a lot. He actually smiled. It was the first time I realized he trusted me. Then one night I found something buried beneath the wreckage. A black metallic device about the size of a football. The moment I picked it up, Kael stood so quickly his chair fell backward. Put that down. I froze. Why? That is a navigation core. Good. No. He stepped closer. That device does not navigate ships. I looked at it. Then what does it navigate? Kael hesitated. Doors. I should have listened. Instead, I connected it to an old battery. Nothing happened. Kael sighed. I told you. Then every light in my workshop went out. The refrigerator stopped. The tools stopped. Even the clock on the wall went dark. For 3 seconds, there was absolute silence. Then the device came alive. A blue star map appeared above my workbench. Thousands of stars filled the garage. Kael stepped backward. I had never seen fear in his face before. What is it? He didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on one tiny point of light. Kael? He whispered. Home. I smiled. Well, there you go. No. His voice changed. That isn't my home. The map zoomed closer. A planet appeared. Blue oceans. White clouds. A familiar shape. My smile disappeared. That's Earth. Kael nodded. Then the image changed. The continent shifted. The oceans moved. The planet became younger. Much younger. Kael stared at it. This world is millions of years old. I looked back at him. Why does your navigation system have an ancient map of Earth? I don't know. That answer scared me more than anything else. Then a red circle appeared on the planet. Right over my hometown. I knew that place. I knew the river beside it. I knew the old highway that ran through town. I had spent most of my life there. It was home. Kael. I see it. The circle pulsed. Once. Twice. Then the navigation core spoke. Not in Kael's language. Not in mine. It spoke perfect English. A woman's voice. Calm. Almost gentle. Origin confirmed. The workshop lights exploded back on. Kael stared at the machine. I stared at him. Then 4 words appeared across the holographic display. Do not bring him home. Neither of us moved. I finally looked at Kael. Buddy? He didn't answer. Kael. His eyes remained fixed on the message. Who doesn't want you going home? He swallowed. I don't know. For the first time since the day he crashed into my field, my alien friend looked genuinely afraid of his own people. Then something outside the garage made a sound. Not an engine. Not an animal. Something deeper. Something that seemed to come from beneath the ground. The navigation core pulsed again. And somewhere in the darkness outside my workshop, something answered. I had learned 2 things about aliens by the time I started building the Wayward. First, they were terrible at admitting they were wrong. Second, they were even worse at hiding it. Kael stood beside my workbench, staring at the holographic fleet hovering above us. Hundreds of ships. Maybe thousands. All moving toward Earth. I looked at him. You know them? Kael didn't answer. Kael. Yes. His voice was quiet. Who are they? He looked at the unfinished Starship behind me. Then at the navigation core. They're not supposed to be here. That wasn't my question. Kael finally looked at me. They are Varen. His people. I felt my stomach tighten. Are they coming for you? Kael shook his head. No. He looked toward the holographic fleet. They are coming because they found you. That changed everything. I glanced at the half-built ship. You said this thing couldn't fly. It cannot. I pointed at the hologram. Then why are they afraid of it? Kael had no answer. So I did what I always did when something didn't make sense. I went back to work. For the next 11 months my garage became a battlefield. Not against aliens. Against engineering. I built the first engine 3 times. The first version exploded. The second melted through the concrete floor. The third actually worked. For 17 seconds. Kael watched the test from behind a reinforced steel door. When the engine finally shut down, he walked over and stared at the smoking machinery. You connected a Varen quantum reactor to an agricultural generator. Yep. That is not an acceptable power source. It powered the engine. For 17 seconds. That's 17 more than yesterday. Kael stared at me. Then very quietly he smiled. That was the first time he started helping. He showed me how the alien reactor regulated energy. I showed him how to bypass the system when the instructions were useless. We argued. A lot. Sometimes until sunrise. Sometimes over the smallest things. But every argument taught us something. The alien technology was perfect. Human technology was adaptable. And somewhere between the two, the Wayward began to take shape. We built the hull from salvaged military alloy. The landing systems came from an aircraft graveyard. The navigation system came from Kael's destroyed scout ship. The engines were something neither of us could completely explain. And the cockpit. That was mine. Kael hated it. You have placed physical controls beside a holographic interface. Correct. Why? Because I like buttons. There is no reason for buttons. There are 12 reasons. He stared at me. I pointed at the coffee cup beside the controls. That's one. He actually laughed. For a moment, everything felt normal. 2 friends building something ridiculous in a garage. Then I found the coordinates. I was calibrating the navigation system when a familiar symbol appeared. The same red marker from the night the navigation core first activated. I zoomed in. Kael walked over. His smile disappeared. The coordinates weren't in deep space. They were on Earth. I looked at the screen. That's my town. Kael said nothing. I zoomed closer. The system identified the location. Not by its human name. By an alien designation. Origin site. I looked at Kael. What does that mean? He didn't answer. Kael. I don't know. You're lying. His amber eyes hardened. I am not. Then why do you look scared? He stepped closer to the hologram. I have seen that symbol before. Where? In the oldest records of my civilization. I waited. Kael swallowed. My people believed it marked the place where our history began. I looked toward the old workshop walls. Your people started here? No. He looked at the red marker. That is what makes no sense. The navigation core suddenly activated. The hologram expanded. The Earth disappeared. The stars vanished. Something enormous appeared beyond them. A region of space with no stars at all. Just darkness. At its center was a single glowing point. Kael stepped backward. What is that? I asked. He didn't answer. The system began counting down. 10. 9. 8. I reached for the controls. Kael grabbed my wrist. Don't. Why? Because whatever that is. He looked at the impossible coordinates. It knows we're here. 7. 6. 5. The Wayward's engine suddenly came alive behind us. The entire garage shook. 4. 3. Kael looked at me. For the first time I saw something worse than fear in his eyes. Recognition. 2. 1. The Starship spoke. Not in English. Not in Varen. In a language neither of us understood. But somehow I knew exactly what it meant. Come home. The engines ignited. And the Wayward began to wake up. The Wayward had never been tested. Not properly. We had powered the engines. We had moved the ship a few feet. We had nearly destroyed my garage twice. But flying 4,712 light years. That was another matter. Kael stood beside me in the cockpit, staring at the controls. We should not do this. I tightened the strap across my chest. You said that yesterday. And the day before. You're getting repetitive. He didn't smile. That bothered me. Outside the cockpit windows, the workshop doors were opening. For the first time I could see the entire ship from inside. The Wayward was enormous. Massive armored sections stretched behind us. 4 gigantic engines surrounded the rear hull. The ship looked nothing like the sleek vessels Kael had described. It looked like someone had taken a military aircraft, a mining machine, an alien warship, and half a scrapyard, and refused to throw any of them away. Kael looked at the control panel. You really believe this will work? No. He stared at me. I smiled. But I believe we can find out. I pushed the ignition. The engines came alive. The entire workshop shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Tools rattled across the floor. Then the Wayward lifted. Slowly. Silently. For one beautiful second, neither of us said anything. We were flying. Kael looked out the window. His expression changed. Not fear. Wonder. You built this. I glanced at him. Don't sound so surprised. I am extremely surprised. Thank you. That was not a compliment. It counts. The ship climbed through the clouds. Earth spread beneath us. Cities became lights. Oceans became darkness. The moon appeared ahead. Then Kael pointed toward the navigation display. Jack. The system was already calculating a route. I hadn't entered one. The same coordinates from the garage had appeared. The mysterious region of starless space. I reached for the controls. Kael stopped me. No. What? We turn around. Why? Because I know that signal. I looked at him. You said you've never been there. I haven't. Then how do you know it? Kael looked away. My people studied it. The navigation system began displaying thousands of alien symbols. Kael's face went pale. My civilization searched for that signal for centuries. And what did they find? Kael didn't answer. Kael. They found a door. The ship suddenly lurched. Every light turned red. The stars outside stretched into long white lines. We had entered hyperspace. I grabbed the controls. What happened? Kael was thrown against his seat. The ship activated the gateway. I didn't activate anything. I know. The Wayward accelerated. Faster. Then faster again. The stars disappeared. Something appeared on the navigation screen. A signal. Not behind us. Ahead. It was broadcasting continuously. Kael stared at it. No. What? That transmission was recorded 3,000 years ago. I looked at him. And? His voice dropped. My people never answered it. Why? Because everyone who followed it disappeared. The ship shook violently. Warnings filled the cockpit. The navigation system was trying to change course. I fought the controls. Kael shouted. Let it take us. You just told me not to follow it. I told you not to follow it. Then why are you telling me to let it take us? Because we are already inside it. A violent flash filled the cockpit. Then everything went silent. The Wayward emerged. I expected stars. Instead, I saw darkness. A dead star floated in front of us. No planets. No asteroids. No other ships. Just a blackened sun surrounded by an enormous structure. Something had been built around it. A ring. No, not a ring. A city. A machine. A civilization. It stretched farther than I could see. Kael slowly stood. His hands were shaking. What is it? I asked. He didn't answer. Kael? He looked at the dead star. This place was destroyed. When? Before my civilization existed. I stared at the impossible structure. Then who built it? Kael stepped toward the window. I don't know. Lights began appearing across the structure. 1. Then 10. Then thousands. Then millions. The entire dead star system came alive. I felt the hair rise on the back of my neck. Kael. He didn't move. A signal appeared on our communications panel. Incoming transmission. I reached for the receiver. Kael grabbed my arm. Don't answer. Why? Because nothing should be alive here. The transmission activated anyway. Static filled the cockpit. Then a woman's voice spoke. Calm. Clear. Almost familiar. Welcome home. Kael froze. I looked at him. You know that voice? His face had gone completely white. Yes. Who is it? He stared at the dead civilization outside. Our first explorer. I waited. What happened to him? Kael whispered. He disappeared 3,000 years ago. The transmission continued. The woman's voice spoke again. Human vessel detected. Kael slowly turned toward me. The entire structure began opening. Something enormous was waking inside it. Then the voice said, You have returned. I looked at Kael. I've never been here. He didn't answer. Because, suddenly, neither of us was sure that was true. The first thing we saw was a city. The second thing we noticed was that nobody was alive. The Wayward drifted toward the enormous structure surrounding the dead star. Millions of lights were still glowing. Buildings stretched across the artificial surface. Bridges connected towers taller than mountains. Ships rested inside enormous docking bays. Everything looked ready for people. But there were no people. Kael stood beside me in silence. I had never seen him look so small. Is this your home? He shook his head. No. Then what is it? He stared through the cockpit window. A warning. We landed inside a massive hangar. The doors opened by themselves. That was the first thing I didn't like. The second was that the air was breathable. The third was that the place looked as if everyone had left yesterday. There were tools on workbenches. Vehicles parked beside buildings. Tables covered with dishes. A child's toy lay beside an open doorway. Kael stopped walking. He stared at it. I didn't ask what it was. Some things don't need explaining. We moved deeper into the city. Our footsteps echoed through empty streets. Then Kael suddenly stopped. What? He pointed ahead. A building stood beneath a massive silver arch. Its walls were covered with symbols. Kael walked toward it slowly. This was a school. He touched the wall. I came here. I looked at him. You grew up here? He nodded. For the first time since we arrived, Kael looked less like an alien and more like a lost kid. He showed me where he had learned mathematics, where his people had trained navigators, where he had first dreamed of becoming a scout. Then he took me to a residential district. His family home was still standing. The door opened when he approached. Inside was a table, 3 chairs, a broken cup, a small object sitting beside the window. Kael picked it up. His hands began shaking. My mother's. I stepped closer. What happened to them? I don't know. We searched the house. There were no bodies. No blood. No signs of violence. Just empty rooms. Then we found the records. Millions of files were stored beneath the city. Kael activated one. A recording appeared. An older Veyron stood before a chamber filled with scientists. His voice trembled. We believed the signal was a message. The recording flickered. We were wrong. The screen showed a region of empty space. The signal was an answer. Kael leaned closer. The scientist continued. Something has been listening to every civilization that reaches beyond its own star. I felt a chill. What something? The recording displayed a symbol. Kael whispered. The listener. The scientist continued. We attempted communication. The image changed. Cities appeared. Then entire worlds. Then one by one, their lights disappeared. We thought it offered knowledge. Another flicker. We thought it offered peace. The scientist looked directly into the recording device. We were wrong. The screen went black. Kael stared at it. What happened to your people? He didn't answer. Then the entire city came alive. Lights flashed through the streets. Doors opened. Thousands of dormant machines activated. The Wayward's navigation system began screaming with warnings. I ran back toward the ship. Kael followed. What is happening? I don't know. The holographic display appeared above the cockpit. A message was forming. Not from the city. From somewhere much farther away. A transmission. The date appeared first. I stared at it. Then I looked at Kael. That's impossible. The date was 16 years in the future. The transmission activated. Static filled the cockpit. Then a man's voice spoke. My voice. Older. Tired. Almost broken. If you're hearing this, don't come home. Kael slowly turned toward me. The recording continued. I know you're going to ignore me. I felt my stomach drop. Because the voice was unmistakably mine. I know you think you can save them. A pause. You can't. Screen flickered. My older face appeared for less than a second. Then the transmission ended. Silence filled the cockpit. Kael stared at me. I stared at the dead screen. 16 years from now, I had apparently sent myself a message. And whatever happened next, I had been desperate enough to warn myself not to come home. I listened to my own voice twice before I believed it. That was a mistake. The second time was worse. If you're hearing this, don't come home. My future voice had sounded tired. Not frightened. Tired. Like someone who had already lost the argument. Kael stood beside me, staring at the dead transmission. Was that you? I think so. You think? I've never heard myself 16 years older. Kael looked at the navigation system. Then we have a problem. I gave him a tired smile. Only one? He didn't smile back. The ancient city began waking around us. Lights moved through the streets. Machines emerged from hidden chambers. Something was happening beneath the structure. We returned to the archive. Kael searched through thousands of records until he found a sealed file. The moment he opened it, every light in the room went dark. A single projection appeared. It showed a Veyron scientist standing inside the same chamber we had just entered. Our civilization believed the listener was an enemy. The scientist looked directly into the recording. It was not. The image changed. We saw thousands of alien civilizations. Different worlds. Different species. Different technologies. All connected by a vast network of light. The listener, it is what civilizations become when they surrender uncertainty. Kael stared at the projection. The scientist continued. Every advanced civilization eventually reaches the same decision. The image showed peaceful worlds. No war. No poverty. No disease. No hunger. Everyone connected. Everyone thinking together. Everyone perfectly safe. Then the scientist's voice changed. But safety has a price. The images changed. Individual faces disappeared. Names disappeared. Personal memories disappeared. The worlds remained peaceful. But nobody was truly themselves anymore. Kael whispered. They joined it. I looked at him. Your people joined the listener? Most of them. He looked down. But some refused. Your family? Kael didn't answer. The silence was enough. I suddenly understood. His people hadn't forgotten him. They had left him behind. Because he refused to become part of the listener. Kael's hands tightened. I thought they were looking for me. His voice cracked. They knew exactly where I was. I wanted to say something. Nothing sounded right. Then the future transmission activated again. My voice returned. You're going to think you can destroy it. The recording paused. You can't. A new image appeared. Earth. Not the Earth we knew. Cities were burning. The sky was filled with alien ships. Then the image changed. Human beings stood beneath a massive network of blue light. Connected. Silent. Perfect. I felt cold. The future version of me continued. The listener doesn't conquer civilizations. A pause. They volunteer. The recording ended. Kael looked at me. So what do we do? I looked at the ancient machines around us. We go home. Kael's eyes widened. You heard the message? Yeah. It told you not to. I know. Then why? I looked at him. Because if we don't go home, nobody gets a choice. We ran back to the Wayward. The ship was already powering up. The moment we entered the cockpit, every display activated. A new route appeared. Earth. But beneath it was another destination. A massive gateway floating beyond the edge of known space. Kael stared at it. That is the entrance. To the listener? He nodded. Then the ship displayed one final message. Not from the future. Not from the Vayrans. From the listener itself. A calm voice filled the cockpit. Jack Mercer. I froze. It knew my name. You have suffered. The voice was gentle. You have lost people. Images appeared around us. People I had known. People I had buried. Faces I hadn't seen in years. Kael stepped closer. The listener continued. You do not have to lose anyone again. My hands tightened around the controls. Kael whispered. Don't listen. The voice answered him. You have already been abandoned once. Kael froze. Come home. The cockpit filled with light. For one impossible moment, Kael saw his family standing before him. His mother smiled. His eyes filled with tears. The listener spoke softly. They are waiting. Kael took one step forward. I didn't stop him. Because this time, the choice had to be his. Kael took another step toward the image of his mother. I couldn't blame him. She looked real. Not like a hologram. Not like a recording. Like someone had opened a door and brought her back. Kael, I said quietly. He didn't move. His mother's hand reached toward him. Come home. Kael's breathing became unsteady. I haven't heard her voice in 40 years. The listener answered through the image. You don't have to lose her again. Kael closed his eyes. For a moment I thought I had lost him. Then he opened them. He looked at his mother. Then at me. What happens if I go? The listener was silent. That silence told us everything. Kael stepped backward. His mother's image flickered. Kael. He shook his head. No. The image changed. His mother became older, then younger. Then his entire family appeared around her. Everyone he had lost. The listener spoke again. You can have them all. Kael's eyes filled with tears. I looked away. Some choices aren't made easier by having someone watching. Then Kael turned toward me. What would you do? I thought about it. For once I didn't have a clever answer. I thought about every person I'd lost. Every goodbye. Every empty chair. Every photograph that eventually became more important than the person in it. Then I looked at Kael. I'd want to believe it. He nodded. But I looked at the impossible family standing in front of him. I'd still want to know what it costs. The listener answered immediately. Nothing. I almost laughed. That's the first lie. The cockpit went silent. The family disappeared. The gateway outside the Wayward began opening. Kael looked at me. You knew. I guessed. How? I pointed toward the navigation system. Because everything that says you get something for nothing usually wants something very badly. Kael smiled faintly. Your species has strange wisdom. Comes from being broke. He laughed. It was a small laugh. But it was his. The listener spoke again. You are choosing suffering. I looked through the cockpit window. The gateway was expanding. Beyond it was something impossible. A vast network of stars connected by blue-white energy. Thousands of civilizations. Millions of minds. All connected. All peaceful. All silent. The listener showed us the future. No wars. No hunger. No loneliness. No fear. It was beautiful. And terrifying. Kael whispered. They really believe this is salvation. Maybe it is. He looked at me. I shook my head. Not if nobody gets to say no. Kael stared at the controls. Then he smiled. Jack. Yeah. You built the ship. I looked at him. You understand it better than I do. Not anymore. He pointed toward the engines. You taught me something. What? That imperfect things can still be useful. I grinned. Now you're talking. We turned the Wayward toward the gateway. The listener tried to stop us. The ship's systems began shutting down one by one. Navigation failed. Weapons failed. Communications failed. Then the engines began dying. Kael looked at me. We are not going to make it. I looked at the old mechanical controls I had installed months earlier. The ones Kael had called unnecessary. I reached beneath the panel. Pulled a lever. Nothing happened. I pulled harder. The old human-built systems came alive. The Wayward lurched forward. Kael stared. What did you do? Added a backup. How many backups? I smiled. Enough. The ship accelerated. The listener tried to predict our movement. But the Wayward wasn't following the alien navigation system anymore. It was using my ridiculous collection of manual controls, improvised sensors and patched-together machinery. Every correction was unpredictable. Every maneuver was slightly wrong. And that was exactly why it worked. The listener couldn't predict us. We crossed the gateway. For 1 second, everything disappeared. Then we were inside. Thousands of civilizations surrounded us. Billions of voices filled the ship. The listener spoke through all of them. Join us. Kael grabbed my shoulder. Jack. The ship began breaking apart. I looked at the controls. There was one thing left. The original navigation core. The same device that had warned us not to come home. I finally understood. It hadn't been warning Kael. It had been warning whoever came looking for him. I reached for it. The listener screamed. Not with anger. With fear. I connected the core to the human-built control system. The entire gateway reversed. All that energy began flowing backward. The listener's network started collapsing. One by one, the connected worlds disappeared from the display. Then something incredible happened. The voices returned. Thousands. Millions. Individual voices. Confused. Frightened. Alive. The listener was losing control. Kael looked at me. You did it. No. I looked at the exploding gateway. We did. The Wayward was falling apart. We barely escaped. Hours later, Earth appeared beneath us. The ship entered the atmosphere trailing smoke and blue fire. We landed in the same field where Kael had first crashed. The Wayward came to rest with one final groan. Silence. Then Kael looked around. We survived. I leaned back. Barely. He looked at the ship. Then at me. You actually built a starship. I smiled. You said I couldn't. Kael laughed. Then he looked toward Earth. For the first time, he wasn't looking for a way home. He was already home. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. The Wayward's navigation core suddenly activated. A star map appeared above the cockpit. One destination was highlighted. Not Earth. Not there in space. Not the gateway. Something beyond known space. Kael stared at it. That place doesn't exist. I reached for the controls. You keep saying that. The engines began to hum. Kael looked at me. Where are we going? I smiled. Somewhere nobody has been. The Wayward lifted toward the stars. And this time, we knew exactly what we were doing.